I witnessed history yesterday, and I had no idea what I was walking into. Yeah, they tested out a CheckSwing challenge system in the Arizona Fall League.
On board with this one.
You're on board.
Yes.
You're on board?
There's a lot of the game I'll discuss that I think I'm okay with human error.
Yeah.
This one I'm not.
Yeah.
This one I agree has been needed. I've talked about this for years, and I'm excited to talk about this one.
Do you feel that way just in general about like an automated strike zone or like at least challenging umpires' calls?
Again, I don't know how much time we have to talk about this subject, but being in AAA, the last year, getting to see the automated zone, be a part of the challenge system.
Right.
I do think there is some very big positives to it, but I think very quickly the sport, which the players and the union and the higher ups decide, we need to figure out what direction we want baseball to go, because we're running out of runway real quick on technology versus human interaction and human error.
Sure.
And what this game was built on versus the direction it's heading versus the business and how much the right call means and is worth in today's game.
So I guess I'll explain how this worked. It was
history. It was the first time ever used.
It was
right?
the first time. Yeah, I asked someone in the press box who's there for Major League Baseball. This had never been tested in a minor league setting. This was literally the first time they've tested this out in a game setting. I guess it uses the Hawkeye technology, whatever it is, it's built into Salt River Fields. I don't believe this technology is in any of the other spring training facilities. So I think you're only going to see this tested in Salt River Fields. But yeah, basically a batter either swings or doesn't swing. We get the call from the umpire, and then they have the opportunity to challenge if they think that the call was missed. And then at that point, we have a challenge, sort of like what you're used to seeing with the ABS challenge system that's been going in the fall league for a while, as well as in the minors, as you said, Archie.
And that challenge comes from the player.
Yeah, the challenge comes from the player. At least that's what I saw. Maybe it would be possible for. I don't think it's possible for like a manager or anyone else.
Similar
to
the strike call, tap the helmet.
Yeah. Yep. They tapped the helmet. And then what would show on the screen is something like what you would see here. Here's the first example that we had in the game. So it does like a little illustration, and then
that's a swing.
And then that is not a swing.
They're saying that line there, the yellow line, is the indicator of the swing or
Correct.
not? And what is that, from you being there, what you've looked up, maybe you're going to get into that, what is defined, what are they defining that as?
So that's like the $1 million question, because apparently there's nothing in the Major League Baseball rule book that actually defines what a swing is.
The grayest rule for such an instrumental call. Yeah. Like, that's why I wanted to talk about it. Like,
I thought if they cross the plate, I thought it was like,
do we have the official rule? Can we pull it up?
Yeah. So what was described to me was it is a 45-degree angle drawn from the knob of the bat. So maybe let's roll that one more time, just the same video.
This is the rule for this, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rule that they've defined for this, you can see like from the knob of the bat, you have a line drawn at 45 degrees, like sort of going out to, in this case, right field. And as long as the bat does not cross that line, then it is a no swing. And you can see from that illustration that the bat goes well past. It goes far beyond like breaking the plane of home plate.
That's what I was going to say. Do we have the old Major League rule, or like what the intent? Because
I don't, because it doesn't exist, Archie.
Correct.
There's nothing in the rule book about it.
Or the way it's always been talked about by us and broadcasters, analysts is the intent of a swing, the intention to swing.
No official definition.
Which for me is like any movement of hands going towards the zone.
As a pitcher, you're like, if you do anything, then that's an intention to swing.
If you want to talk about like a certain point in the plate, used to be a reference point if the barrel crossed a certain point. But you're right. For what I'm going to talk about in a second, it being such a huge call, there's such a gray area, no rule. So, I don't have exact percentages. I wish I'd known we were going to talk about this. Thanks for texting me, Jesse.
Of course. Yep.
No.
Thanks for the prep, Jesse.
No, I mean, when you go into these meetings where you talk about controlling counts and percentages, and now more than ever, especially with betting and everything, like the difference of a 1-1 count going to 1-2 versus 2-1.
Yeah.
2-0 going to 3-0 versus 2-1. You can run through the percentages of what these counts mean, and then especially in big situations, man, or a strike three. I can roll through many of these where, again, these umpires are doing a great job. It is so hard to call balls and strikes. It is, I think, even harder to determine a check swing.
Yeah.
These guys are a 90 plus. I mean, first base is 90 feet away. They're another 10, 15 feet behind these guys. These guys are judging a call that literally happens faster than a pitch at 100 plus feet away. And it's a huge part of being right. I mean, you know, statistically having an advantage of being up or down and in a bat. So I am so on board with this.
Well, and a check swing is kind of the biggest like judgment call. Like Jesse said, there is no defined metric for what makes a check swing. I mean, the some of the factors listed here are whether the batter attempted to hit the pitch. Okay, there's that. Whether the barrel of the bat was in front of the batter's body, whether the batter rolled their wrist, whether the batter swung through the ball or drew the bat back before the pitch. Now, what's interesting about the challenge system is that none of those things talk about a 45-degree angle from the knob of the bat or not crossing that plane.
I mean, clearly Major League Baseball, for the purpose of creating the system, they had to come up with like a quantifiable, like something that you can model with like math, because that was the only way that they were going to be able to create the system to begin with. And the system that they've created seems very, very generous for hitters. I don't know if it will extrapolate this way.
It does. I think, again, I was a part of, we'd have to go back, but 2014, my fall league year, we tested something with pitch clock.
Oh, really?
Or inning, maybe sped up innings in between innings or something like that. It was something new.
Interesting.
We'd have to look it up, but we tested something and it was like the baseline. And then I remember a couple years later how much it had changed, where I think you have to start somewhere. And again, from looking at, you know, what you showed us, the bat knob makes a lot of sense. I think the angle could change a little bit.
Yeah,
I do
maybe
think
not
it's
so.
generous.
Yeah, like maybe we should go 20 degrees.
I've thought about this a
like
lot with, you know, talks during games with other players. I like the bat knob because there's so many variables in a swing, but to hit the ball, the knob generally is in this area when you're swinging. So you can base it off that, where the plate or other factors can be manipulated by stance, positioning. And yeah, you have to, that's what the fall league, and I think why MLB owns some of these other leagues, the Frontier, you know, I think is, I don't know, I think that's what it is,
pigs.
Right? Yeah. They have ways to implement these. And I think the fall league, I mean, again, I think this is something that is going to make it to the big leagues faster than ball or strike. So I think this is much needed, and I'm all for starting it, testing it, getting it to the big leagues.
How much in your opinion, you brought this up briefly, but does sports gambling kind of impact all of this? Because you don't think it really, you're not in general thinking that legalized, you know, sports betting and such is going to impact the game, but it almost feels like every sport needs to find a way to make things black and white and not have any portion of the game left up in the referee's hands.
Here's what I've learned from the outside looking in. It's a business.
Yeah.
I love the sport. I love growing up playing baseball, but the further I've gotten into professional sports, and it is still a game, and we do play it for the love of the game. Every decision, for the most part, outside of a handful, but in you zoom out of the microscope, every decision in sports is business.
Yeah.
And especially now with sports betting, what it's become, the availability of it. You look at, again, I talk about my career. You talk about 2015, betting on a game, live betting, no chance, to now it's on uniforms, it's on the back of bullpens, where we literally talk about it to start the show, which is awesome. I understand we're evolving, you know, what is available.
I was actually at a sports book and I refused to, I wanted to put in a bet and I was like, no, I don't want to come back here to have to cash it in. I'll just do it on my phone. Right. So, I mean, it's like, that's how easy it makes it.
Everything from that perspective, we can go into other sports, but the balls and strikes. Okay, we started out with just showing the square zone, right? And that was really cool. Now, I mean, literally, again, pitches, plays. You can go back a couple years way back. Armando Galarraga, like all these instances, you know, where guys are out or safe, or the ball was a strike or not. Now we know if it was a ball or strike. We know if he was out or safe, and that play with all the numbers, again, outside of betting. But statistically, if he's safe there, the Dodgers have a 20% better chance to win now because he's on second base safe with no outs.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And again, that you talk about swaying bets, and especially now where you can bet per inning, per bat, basically.
Right.
If you're getting these calls wrong, Vegas, again, not a conspiracy guy, but the overall business, like the bottom dollar, there's money to be made here. And if you're missing calls that they can show are right, it's like I said, we got to decide here. We got to draw a line in the sand on how far we're going to let technology take sports in general.
We do have Tommy Troy from the Salt River Rafters talking about his thoughts on the CheckSwing system. Here's what Troy had to say.
I think it's pretty forgiving for the hitters. We got a challenge today, and I was like, wow. But I mean, it's part of the game. I love how we're trying it out in this setting. We can make adjustments from there. But I like it.
Well, of course he likes it as a hitter.
Yeah.
You just prefaced that with that. He's like, it's pretty generous. I like it.
I did follow up with Tommy about the definition of a swing versus a check swing, and like how do we know the difference? Does he know the difference? And this is pretty interesting. This is what he had to say about that.
The definition's been pretty ambiguous, like ever since I started playing, but like, yeah, they're saying it's like 45 degrees or whatever, like down the line. I don't really know. Before that, I just thought if you're just crossing the plate at all, it would be a swing, but I guess it's changing now, but
So 45 degrees, like that seems very generous.
That is pretty, I mean, it's hard enough to hit, why not? So.
Sounds like me talking about playing MLB The Show. It's hard enough to hit. Just let me play on rookie and leave me alone.
We can take. The other thing I'll say about this real quick that I didn't mention earlier, what was explained to me is that each team gets 2 of these challenges per game. And if you use both of them in the first 8 innings, then you get another one for the 9th inning. Apparently,
if you use both of them or don't use both of them.
I believe if you use both of them in the 8th in innings 1 through 8. Then you
feel
get
like that's an automatic, and you're gonna
So basically, it's just if a team is out of them by the 9th inning, because it's the 9th inning, they want to give you an extra one. And then I imagine that in extra innings you would get an additional one for each extra inning as well. What was also interesting to me is that if you are correct, then you actually don't keep your challenge. So unlike the ABS. The ball strike system, where if you get 3 challenges per game, but if you're right, then you don't lose one. In this case, you only get 2 challenges, at least in those first 8 innings. You get the additional ones afterwards. But if you're right, you still lose the challenge. So that seemed a little arbitrary to me. I don't know exactly why they're doing it that way. But that's what was explained to me yesterday.
It's getting to the point where we have too many trash bins outside of our house. There's too many challenges. Like,
that's my point.
Do I have 3? I have 3 balls and strike challenges. I have 2 for the check swing. How many do I have for in or out of foul territory?
It's becoming where, again, a manager, instead of holding a lineup card, it's going to be a list of challenges. And truly, like, and now, I mean, it's an iPad now. It's not it's not the old lineup card and, grab the pencil behind the ear. It's scan or, crap, there's an assistant standing next to him that's holding it. You know what I mean? Like,
it does seem like, just imagining a scenario where both the ball strike challenge system and this challenge system are in the majors. It's going to be hard to keep track of. Like on a TV broadcast, you're going to have.
They're going to have little boxes.
Imagine scoring. You just naturally strike, check. Pencil. You're not using.
Scorebug's going to look gross. It's going to have little X's and green, like check marks for when they got a challenge.
And again, you're going to start like you've seen with analytics and the I understand them, but the WOBAs and these made up categories. You're going to start having.
They're not made up.
I know
they're not real.
I know. I understand they're real, and I believe in some of them. Like some of them, I believe in the most. We're not to go super deep, as I've talked about the fact that we don't play on the same dimensions everywhere. That's why we have to have the stat for adjusted ballparks and all this shit.
Right.
It's I mean, we're just everything is getting to a point where it's just getting out of hand, and like we're losing what are we trying to accomplish here? And
still a game where you're throwing a ball and hitting it with a stick.
What stat are we gonna have to even the ghost runner and like the extra innings? I understand it, and I believe in the value of it in terms of keeping guys healthy, keeping games shorter. The roster moves that happen after these long inning games, but
it sucks. It sucks watching an extra innings game in regular season baseball.
and like I said, I've sat in these meetings where it's crazy. You vote on them and boom, rule changes. You're like, oh, okay, we're going Ghost Runner. Like, what did we just do? Like,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And then you get to watch a postseason game with extra innings and there's no Ghost Runner. And you're like, oh, this
refreshing.
is delightful.
Yeah,
I forgot what it was like to watch a game like this.
Hitting, like Tommy Troy just said, hitting is hard. And so, again, being just looking at the game from a business, like, yeah, you have to generate more offense. One, you know, every sport has rule changes. Baseball is at a point where some of the rule changes are coming to be more relevant right now and big topics, like with the clock and all these things. And people do need to score more runs. ERAs do need to, I say go up, but the average of guys throwing in the low 1s and 2s, like, it's going to adjust. A good ERA will now be a 2 and a 3, but what fans want to see is offense and action. And so MLB as a business is trying to incorporate that. And so from the check swing to these other things, I mean, it goes back to producing a content and a product that people want to come pay and see.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, trying to figure out why MLB would at least start with this 45-degree angle. It's like, yeah, it's very friendly for hitters. And that's kind of what MLB has been trying to do for several years now.
Hitting is hard. I mean, the hardest it's ever been. Guys are from pitch shape and design to the speed they're throwing. Like, and again, we can dive into it. I've looked at, but you look at, I mean, team averages, like the amount of teams hitting below 230, like it's disgusting.
The league average batting average is like 245 this year. Yeah.
It's creating a game that is tough to watch, and I don't want to sit here and sound like these old heads that I heard before me that talk about the game the game always changes. Yeah, it's going to continuously change. But as great as it is, and their baseball is still great, and I love baseball, but I'm not going to say we're in trouble, but yeah, we need to figure out some of these things with, like I talked about, the technology merger and combining the love of the game and the passion of the game and the technology and human. We need to come together. Yeah. Like Bill Gates, you know, let's get everyone on the table.
We all silly like the mayor.